You all know, if you've been watching the show, and if you haven't been, go ahead and subscribe. We're very close to 300. If we're at 300, we're actually also very close to 400. So just continue subscribing. I love my work reform stories. And here we're talking about the great disengagement. And I think when we sometimes talk about, and I wish Jon was here maybe for this one, because this is something that we've gone back and forth on a couple times. He's actually sick this week, but I have Peter back. So it's nice to have Peter back from his travels. So the great disengagement is basically talking about how there was a recent survey that said roughly 30% of office workers polled by the conference board say their engagement is lower now than it was 6 months ago. And this affects women and millennials more than men, older generations, and executives. But they were more receptive when it came to working for a caring, empathetic leader. And I think when Jon talks about, I'll just speak for him on his behalf while he's not here this week, which I absolutely did not do to Peter last week. But Jon doesn't watch the show; it's fine. When we'll see. When we talk about quiet quitting, I think there's probably a lot more overlap with this active disengagement than people talk about, because it definitely affects productivity. Interestingly, they found that when they talked about like what would help them feel more connected to their workplace, 70% said they wanted continued workplace flexibility in terms of location and hours. 2/3 said they would like the company to contribute more to a retirement plan. 61% said they like to see greater paid vacation. And then as part of the survey, fewer than a fifth said that their effort has suffered as a part of their disengagement. And this is where I really might be a little more skeptical of this. And 80% said that it's either the same or increased. I'm going to dig into this a little bit more, but let's get Peter on. He and I will have a discussion on today's Not So Critical update. So what's your first impression, Peter?
I'm sorry, Mike. That wasn't an engaging enough intro.
You are actively disengaged.
Actively disengaged. I'm quiet quitting right here, right now.
All right, cool. Yeah. Bare minimum effort.
Kind of
you showed up. That's it. Okay, cool. Then I love talking, so I'll just keep going. You're fine. You just sit there. It's no problem at all.
No. It sucks. I mean, it kind of sucks. It's good in a way that people are kind of recognizing that they're being treated like shit. Well, not like shit, but it doesn't have to be this way, kind of thing. One question I have is though,
and an appropriate response is to just stop working as much at your job.
Well, what else are you going to do? I mean, it's not stop working as much. It's doing your job. It's just working as much as you're paid to do.
Also, so this is the argument for work reform. I think when we're talking about active disengagement, we're talking about people who are if you're not engaged in your work, you're not going to be as productive doing it. So you could say they are disengaging because they're treated like shit by their employers. You don't know that that's true. They could work for a great company and be disengaged. One situation. So what they talk about is connectedness to their employees as a primary indicator of this active disengagement. And this is not the same case, much more serious, but I do think there's some similarity in primary school students, like K through 12. A significant indicator of suicide risk is connectedness to their classmates.
Jesus. Okay. I didn't expect you to go there.
I know, right? Very dark. But here, a lot of it has to do with connectedness to the other workers. If somebody feels connected to their coworkers, they're much less likely to become actively disengaged and withdraw from the workplace, not kill themselves, presumably, but the same, psychologically the same concept. And so this is an area that work from home could definitely have some impact. You may have trouble feeling as connected to your coworkers. Even for a great employer, with great benefits and all this other stuff going for them, that would cause you to not be as engaged with the job.
Well, you say, yeah, maybe, but like, I don't know. I think that swings both ways. I think that being remote gives you more opportunity for social interaction with your chosen group of friends, and that might make you feel better about work. Just being able to kind of log off and chill out after work with your actual friends can be a good thing. I don't know. It's tough.
So if it's increased so much in the past 6 months, go ahead.
Sorry, no, go ahead. Good.
Everything you said, I think, is true. And some people do thrive in the remote work environment and can become more productive because they're happier and have the flexibility. If it's just a matter of bad employers, why is it higher now than it was 6 months ago? Employers didn't suddenly get shittier, did they?
I don't know. To me, the biggest thing that's happened in the last 6 months is the economy has just tanked like everywhere. Mm-hmm. So if you're worried about your job and you're not happy at your job, but you can't quit your job, that's going to make you even more frustrated.
That's true. And they mentioned that as a factor in the article, that these are people who might, in a better economic environment, if there were other job prospects, might quit and go get another job, but they maybe don't have that choice right now.
Right. So my big question is it that this is genuinely actually happening now, or is it something that's always been happening and we're just measuring it better now? Like back in the 70s, were people really genuinely engaged in their coal mining job and look forward to working and everybody was a big happy family? Or did their coal mining job suck and they just weren't tracking it? Or they would, I don't know.
Well, so I think there's two questions there. If you have a job on an assembly line, in a coal mine, wherever, like, yeah, you might hate that job. But if you are disengaged, meaning not delivering, like, so I think if you're talking about disengagement, there's a distinction between, like, do I like this job but I'm still doing it, versus do I hate this job and I'm still doing it, versus do I hate this job so I'm actually going to scale back my efforts a little bit or significantly to the point that maybe I'm just not even doing the job and I have quit, but I'm still here. And in fact, this actually happened to me back in 2005, I think. Oh, it was 2007. October of 2007 is when I left the job to start my IT company. I quit the job 3 months earlier when the employer, I'd been there for 2 years. I never took a day of vacation, and I put in for a week of vacation with plenty of notice. And the owner said, "Oh, your request for a vacation is denied because it's going to be really busy that time of the year." And I said, "Are you kidding me? Yeah. I've been here for 2 years. Like, what's the problem?" The day he denied my vacation, I stopped doing that job. I didn't leave the company for 3 months. I wrote my resignation letter that day and was sitting on it until I decided what I wanted to do later. That's actively disengaged. And I think the quiet quitting crowd would say, no, that's not quiet quitting. That's something different. I don't buy it. There's a lot more overlap than people want to admit. So yes, it's been happening. Yes, we're doing a better job of managing it. Is it getting worse? I think it probably is getting worse.
Well, I like the problem is getting worse, but like it feels like the issue of not being treated well by your employer is getting dealt with. I don't know. I feel like I've always been a bit of a prima donna when it comes to jobs. I've had a ton of jobs where it sucked and I couldn't put any effort in. And I feel like I would have always had justifications. Always like, oh, but because they make us come in at 8:30. And if you're 5 minutes late, then they get pissed off. And I'm like, oh, how can they do that? That's terrible. That doesn't make any sense. I'm a fucking developer. Who cares what time I get in? And it all made sense in my head. But after a while of saying the same thing for like 10 different jobs, you'd start to think, oh, is it me actually? Maybe I'm just I'm the problem. But I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think that definitely people should look after themselves and stick up for themselves when they're in a situation like that. And Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell. I think so. Coming back to the story, the Great Disengagement, I sort of see it as a positive thing in general because it fits my worldview, and I feel like managers and management just want the control of that's they're kind of trying to come up with any excuse to justify people coming back to the workplace, but
so just
it's all really just about control.
To be clear, the argument from the quiet quitting crowd is that quiet quitting, you're still productive, you're still doing your job, you're just not going above and beyond. When we're talking about active disengagement, you are harming the company because you are getting paid for work that you're not doing, or you are sowing discontent within the company. And you're saying
so then you should get
that's
fired.
okay.
If they treat you like shit and that's what you do, and they don't let you go, or you don't, then yeah. I mean, it's an abusive relationship, right? But it started off with the employer first. I mean, if employees act like that, if they're disruptive, the asshole in the team, everyone's been on a team where there's that one dickhead. Get rid of them. I think if they're disruptive and they prevent work being done. But if they're doing that in reaction to being treated badly, good luck to them.
So if we look at the current circumstances coming out of the pandemic, and just looking at the idea of connectedness to other coworkers, which may have nothing to do with treatment by the employer, does that change things for you?
So I think that is part of it. It's too short term to really tell, to be honest. I think that we're in a new world, a new situation where people have seen that remote work is possible. Hybrid work is very possible, that you can have days at home and be as productive or more productive than you were before. And so there's no reason to be forced to come into the office every day. And people can see this now. Like, it's not just a hypothetical, there's maybe. We had to work at home a lot, and a lot of companies, it was a lot better in lots of ways.
But not going to the office is part of what contributes to the non-connectedness, potentially.
Yeah, but so now we're past that. It's been too short a time for companies to properly adjust, because one of the things about having a remote workforce is that you need to make more conscious effort to address the disconnect. So you need to have coffee times or happy hours or work events, online work events. You need to have specific times where your team meets up in person. You need to pay for, company team meetups and places, offsites, that kind of thing. And, it's not the corporate dream of, we never have to pay for an office anymore. You actually do have to kind of replace that office with other stuff. It might end up cheaper, but there's still things that need to be done. It's not as simple as just not having an office. There's other things come into play.
Sure.
But I think now, 6 months later, or whatever, a year and a half later, there's a lot of people who just haven't changed their mindset. And it's difficult. If you've been doing something all your life a certain way, then changing it so rapidly is, I'm hoping that the companies will get better at it. Either they'll get better at it, or they will drop out of the workforce and be replaced by the new generation who get it. Fingers crossed for the future.
Yeah. I did a whole rant on quiet quitting and shitty employers and all that stuff a couple of weeks ago, so I'm not going to get it all into all of it again. But I think it's not great for either side. I think there's some blame to go to both sides. And I know there's bad situations that people are stuck in. So I understand how it happens. It's very unfortunate, and I think there are some people now taking advantage of that to get over on their employers. I think there are employers trying to get over on their employees, and I think the answer, to my mind, often comes back to just American capitalism is deeply broken, and we need to figure out what to do about that.
Well, yeah, that's true. I'm not going to argue with you on that point.
Maybe capitalism just globally, generally, the idea of unfettered capitalism. But we'll see. Hopefully we get to that Star Trek future.